forget.
May I be the first to congratulate this morning Kevin Costner, and Good Morning America. I am Barbara Walters.
And I'm Charles Gibson. It's Tuesday, March 26th. Kevin Costner, of course, was the big winner at last night's Oscar ceremonies. Dances with Wolves won for Best Picture. He won for Best Director, although Jeremy Irons won for Best Actor. But Dances with Wolves won 7 of the Oscars. And if you stayed up to the bitter end at 12:20, as the two of us did, you're pooped this morning.
Yeah, but it was worth it. You get hooked.
Oh, I love it. It's one of my favorite nights of the year. And this is the morning after, I guess, Hollywood's biggest night. And hang on, in just a minute, we will have a quick update on all of the stars who took Oscar home. Also joining us this morning is superstar of sport. Bo Jackson is going to be with us. You've read about him a lot in recent days. His injury has derailed his stellar career as baseball and football pro. Also, this morning, we're going to be talking about how students and their families are dealing with the skyrocketing cost of higher education in America.
Now, we stayed up until a little after 1 o'clock, wasn't it? By the
Well,
time
it was actually 12:22.
Exactly. Well, it seemed like 1 o'clock. But if you didn't stay up that late and you want the Oscar update, if you missed the big show and you just want to relive the memory, Chantal now will recap the winning moments at the 63rd Academy Awards.
Oscar night might well be called Dances with Wolves night, as it won 7 of its 12 nominations, including Best Picture. And Kevin Costner walked away with the Best Director honors. Best Actor went to Jeremy Irons for his performance in Reversal of Fortune. Best Actress kudos went to Kathy Bates in Misery, Supporting Actress Whoopi Goldberg in Ghost, and Supporting Actor Joe Pesci in Goodfellas. So the general consensus is no surprises last night. It seems the favorites walked away with the gold. In Hollywood, I'm Chantal.
Both of us were saying this morning, thank you, Chantal, both of us were saying this morning, we thought that they made the right choice. And
absolutely.
Almost
and
all
the audience
big
seemed to, too. The applause
absolutely.
Before they even won.
We're going to have a good bit more on Oscar night throughout the program, but first we go to the news, and leading the news at this hour, the latest on the civil war in Iraq. Mike Schneider standing by with that story and the news of the day. Mike, good morning.
Good morning, Charlie. Good morning, Barbara. Good morning, everyone. During the Gulf War, we heard all the complaints about Iraq and about how civilians were allegedly the targets of Allied bombing. This morning, there is increasing evidence now that Iraq's own troops are killing many Iraqi civilians in the continuing civil war there. Opponents of Saddam Hussein now say that much of the killing has been done by helicopter gunships flying apparently in violation of the temporary ceasefire. ABC's Dennis Trout now joins us live from the Pentagon with more on that. Dennis, have they confirmed that these gunships are being used?
Good morning, Mike. Yes, they have. The U.S. military now says that helicopter gunships are being used by Saddam Hussein's troops against the insurgents. This may or may not be a violation of battlefield understandings. Our belief is that General Schwarzkopf in the Iraqi that no fixed-wing aircraft would be used by Iraq, but not helicopters. Helicopters apparently were not mentioned. And while the U.S. doesn't like the idea and has warned the Iraqis against using them, there's nothing specific in their agreements. So in effect, there would have to be something of a change in policy if the United States now decides to start shooting those helicopters down. In large part because of the measures he's willing to employ, Saddam Hussein now controls the insurgents pretty well. The belief here is that he controls the cities, which were the major concern for him, and it's taking on the look of a classic insurgency, with some of the rebels holding parts of the countryside, airports at times, things like that, but Saddam Hussein really gaining ground. Mike?
What about the movement of some heavy armored units from the U.S. North into Iraq? What are we to make of that?
We don't believe that they're really going north. We think that the 7th Corps, which entails most of the heavy armored divisions from Europe, the 1st Division, the 1st Armored Division, and the 2nd Division, have gone to replace the 18th Corps. And those were the lighter heliborne units as well as the 24th Mechanized Infantry. The understanding here is that the 18th Corps was supposed to be out by yesterday, and they have met that deadline. That's about 100,000 troops that have moved out of Iraq and into Saudi Arabia. And the 7th Corps, with all of its heavy tanks, now will confront Saddam Hussein. And that's still a considerable force, 100,000 troops and all that they've got with them. Mike?
Dennis, thank you very much. ABC's Dennis Trout live for us this morning at the Pentagon. Now, the fighting may have stopped for the most part between the U.S. and Iraq, but the war between the Allies and Iraq is not officially over, not yet at any rate. That could change very soon, we're told. The 5 permanent members of the UN Security Council are now reported to be close to an agreement on a permanent ceasefire resolution. Today's Washington Post says there is a good chance that this will be voted on by the end of the week. Now, one more demand that the Allies have made before any ceasefire becomes official is that Iraq return all the loot that was stolen from Kuwait, gold, currency, things like that. Iraq's UN ambassador now says Kuwait will get all of its money back. The gold bullion alone is worth some $500 million. Under the Soviet Union now, where the Kremlin is cracking down on dissent throughout that country, it is now banning public rallies in Moscow. The ban will be effective at least for the next 3 weeks. Several rallies were expected to be held in that city between now and the middle of April. A huge rally had been planned in support of Boris Yeltsin, Mikhail Gorbachev's main political rival. The two big political rival factions in Northern Ireland have now come to something very unusual, an agreement. Leaders of the parties representing most of the country's Protestants and Catholics say they will hold talks now on restoring home rule. No date for the talks have been set, but if everything does work out, it'll be the first time those two sides have formally talked to each other in 15 years. Other news this morning, the murder case of Army Specialist Anthony Riggs has taken a rather strange twist now. He is the soldier who was shot in Detroit just after getting back from the Persian Gulf. Yesterday, Riggs' wife was questioned by police, and then she was released. Later, there were reports that her brother was in police custody. Sources say what at first appeared to be a senseless, random crime may actually have been a plot to get insurance money. In Los Angeles, the FBI has begun its investigation now of the videotaped police beating of the motorist Rodney King. They're interviewing some co-workers of the 4 officers who have been indicted for the incident. They're also trying now to see if any federal laws were broken and if there's been any pattern to the brutality charges filed against the LAPD. The Supreme Court has now decided to get into the controversy over whether cigarette makers have done all they really can to warn people about the dangers of smoking. One of the key issues here is whether or not the federal law requiring warning labels on packs of cigarettes also removes the legal liability of the tobacco companies. Now, there was another case, a big case, the justices decided to take up involving divorce. But it's not just any divorce case. This one also involves bankruptcy law. Here's ABC's law correspondent, Tim O'Brien.
When Jean Farry got divorced in 1986, her husband got the family home. She was given a lien on it until he paid her $29,000.
He told me that he'd see to it that I wouldn't get a dime. That was what he said, you will never get a dime.
And she didn't. He filed for bankruptcy.
I didn't jump out there and say, hey, I want to go bankrupt now because you're not going to get paid.
But Farry and her lawyers went to the Supreme Court, arguing when Congress drafted the bankruptcy laws, it could never have intended such an unfair result. The lawyer for the ex-husband said bankruptcy usually is unfair to someone. Justice Scalia noted Congress made exceptions for child support and alimony, but not for debts like this one. Stevens wondered if it might be an oversight. Divorce lawyers warned of chaos if debts to a former spouse can be avoided through bankruptcy.
I think they're going to be marching in there and say, hey, can't pay it, Judge, let me out. I think it is the grossest, most perverse twisting of public policy.
The divorce laws seek an equitable distribution of property. The bankruptcy laws seek to help one who has fallen financially to recover. How the Supreme Court resolves the conflict in this case could affect many of the more than 1 million divorces that occur in the United States each year. Tim O'Brien, ABC News, Hortonville, Wisconsin.
That is the news till now. Of course, a lot more coming up on the Academy Awards a little bit later here on Good Morning America. But first, we must check in with Spencer Christian and Charlie to see what the day's weather will be like. Will it be an Academy Award-winning performance from Spencer? Stay tuned.
Well, we'll let you know, and thank goodness Spencer is here, because 5 seconds ago he ran to get his teacup there.
Yeah. Herbal decaffeinated tea, I might add.
Well.
Good for the body.
Isn't that good to know? And what do you have in terms of the weather?
We've got winter and summer on the same map. You want to see this?
Okay, let's see.
Okay. We have winter and summer not peacefully coexisting on this map. The jet stream takes a sharp dip southward out west, so very winter-like weather has dominated this region for some time and continues today, but with a sharp lift upward here in the east, warm summer-like air is flowing into the nation's midsection and the southeast, so we have these two contrasting weather patterns, and they're reflected in today's high temperatures here. It'll be in the 80s and 90s throughout the south central and southeastern states. Well, 80s generally, 90s in southern Texas. Back here over the Rockies and the southwest, quite chilly. Highs generally in the 30s and 40s, even some teens and 20s way up here over northern Montana and parts of North Dakota. The outlook calls for mostly sunny skies and calm weather in the eastern two-thirds of the nation. Late today, very powerful thunderstorms will break out here in the central and northern plains and up into the upper Mississippi Valley, and powerful Snowstorms have already developed here in the central and northern Rockies. The heaviest snowfall way up north, where about
Americans, last night was a big night in front of the TV watching this year's Oscar ceremonies. But if you missed the Oscars or you forgot to set your VCR, you fell asleep before the big awards, never fear. Because Joel Siegel has put together the best of Oscar just for you. And best of all, it won't take 3.5 hours.
Ready, honey. I'm getting ready to go sit down in that audience and sweat.
It's wonderful. It's the best night of the year.
I'm pretty pleased to be here. It's a nice excuse to come out and dress up in the tux.
If it's Monday in March and Meryl Streep is nominated, it must be the Oscars. But these are the Oscars with a difference. You can hear the fans in the stands, but this year, for the first time, they weren't allowed to camp out. No water, no food, no cameras. Heightened security. If they were interested in the kind of security to protect the winners from the losers, though, Kevin Costner would need the 1st Marine Division. Congratulations, and good luck.
Thank you very much.
How you feeling?
Well, I don't know. There's no, like, blueprint to go through one of these things. So you kind of do it yourself, and I'll probably think about what it's like afterwards. Right now, I think you probably got a better idea what this is like.
They were worried about the weather, too. It had rained hard the night before. That's why the canopy. But somebody up there must like Dances with Wolves, and the sun shone through the clouds and onto Debbie Allen's bugle beads, and Jeff Bridges' Johnny Versace vest, and Kathy Bates' good luck charm. Isn't it black tie?
Well, I thought, you know, it's the 90s.
Yes, it's the 90s, but it is the Oscars. Glitz, glamour, and nervous stomachs.
To be here in the company of Pacino and Bob Hope's going to be here and Margaret, you just want to go like this all day.
You know how many people will be watching you tonight?
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to know about it. It's bad enough I got this audience with De Niro and Scorsese and Kevin Costner and my mother at home.
You have a speech ready?
No, I'm not going to win, so.
How is this different this time than the first time?
The first time I knew there wasn't a prayer. I mean, I came knowing that, and so I could come and be grandiose and wave and have a great time. This is a little bit different because I could actually do this.
And she did. Best Supporting Actress in Ghost. In 63 years of Oscar history, the only winners with shorter acceptance speeches than Joe Pesci's weren't there.
Oh, it's my privilege. Thank you.
All the major winners were first-time Oscar winners. Jeremy Irons, Best Actor for Reversal of Fortune. Kathy Bates, Best Actress for Misery. Her good luck charm worked. And Kevin Costner, Best Director of the year's Best Picture, Dances with Wolves, were all first-time nominees. 3 years ago, Michael Blake was washing dishes in a Chinese restaurant in Bisbee, Arizona. He won an Oscar for Best Screenplay Adaptation of his own novel, Dances with Wolves. Dances won 7 statues. No other film won more than 2. Memorable moments, Madonna taking it off.
Sooner or later, there's nowhere to hide. Baby, it's time so well wasted in chatter.
Billy Crystal putting us on.
If it really doesn't matter who wins, because no matter who wins, Saddam Hussein will claim he did.
And I love the short film that asked, what was the first movie you ever saw?
Dumbo.
Bambi. Bambi.
It was Bambi, like everybody else.
It seemed to me this was an evening of couples. Madonna and Michael. Kim and Alex. Tom and Nicole. And in what may be a, shall we say, taste of next year's Oscars, Jodie Foster and Anthony Hopkins. There is no truth to the rumor that after the awards he carved the roast beef at the governor's ball. And Kevin Costner and his couple of Oscars.
Dances with Wolves won this year, and while it's not as important as the rest of the world situation where it sits, it will always be important to us, and we thank you for this.
I think everybody was happy with these winners. Charlie was pointing out when Madonna was singing, did you notice that her hand was shaking? It's nice to know that she can get nervous as well, and she was wonderful. Anyway, later on, Joel's going to have a conversation with Kevin Costner, and coming up next, the personal side of the story for a sideline superstar. Charlie will talk with Bo Jackson when Good Morning America continues.
18 after the hour. Of all the Sandlot dreamers and high school varsity hopefuls who aspire to a career in professional sports, few, of course, ever make it. Fewer still become stars. But Bo Jackson is a legend. In 2 sports, he's been a pro and an all-star. For 5 seasons, he's been a standout slugger, an all-star for the Kansas City Royals. In the offseason, he indulges what he once called a hobby as a star running back in the NFL for the Los Angeles Raiders. But a hip injury sustained in an AFC playoff game last January could mean the end of Bo Jackson's career on the diamond and the gridiron. Last week, Bo was released on waivers by the Royals, and Bo Jackson's joining us this morning from our affiliate KMBC in Kansas City. Bo, nice to have you with us. How do you feel?
I feel great, Charlie.
You feel great, but are you still on crutches?
I'm still on crutches. I plan to be on crutches for some time, as long as my doctor tell me to stay on them.
It's an amazing story, Bo, and you know, here you were playing the AFC title game in January, and just a couple of months later, you're released by Kansas City. A lot of people say the career is over. Do you feel like you've gone from the top of the world to the bottom very quickly?
Not really, Charlie. I guess you can ask 1,000 people just about Bo Jackson and what has happened to him over the past couple of months, and you will probably get 900 different answers. So I really don't pay that type of gossip or talk no mind. I try to...
Go ahead. You try to what?
I try to keep my head level and do what my doctors tell me to do as far as getting myself back on the track to get back out on the field.
But when the injury occurred in January in that AFC title game, did you know then it was serious? When did you know?
I knew that it could be serious when I got up and tried to walk off the field, and I felt a sharp pain in my hip. And I just decided to sit back down and wait till the trainer comes out.
Now, every doctor, it seems, every doctor that works on these kinds of things has offered an opinion to the press in one way or the other. And I know you've only been actually looked at by a couple of those doctors. But when every Major League Baseball team takes a pass on you, doesn't claim you on waivers, do you feel like the medical community is betting against you?
Really, I don't care what the medical community is saying or speculating just about me. My physician is Dr. Andrews out of Birmingham. And whatever he tells me just about my hip, I have to live with that. And if he say that I am going to be back on the field playing, I got confidence in him and his profession to know that I will be out on the field playing.
Well, was it a mistake playing 2 sports? A lot of people said, he's pushing himself too hard. He's taking it too far. Do you look back on that decision now?
If a lot of people would keep their nose in their own business, the world wouldn't be half as bad as it is now. I am not living my life for those people. I'm doing what makes me happy, what makes me breathe. And when I overcome this test, right now, I'll be back out doing the same thing.
I was going to say, you want to come back in both sports. You want to play baseball and football again.
Just like I said, when I come back, I'll be doing the same thing.
When the Royals released you, because the Royals were always somewhat ambivalent or indeed even questioning whether you should play 2 sports, the Royals' decision to release you, was it simply a business decision so they wouldn't have to pay you the salary, or do you think in the back of their mind was also that business about we don't want to play in 2 sports?
Well, I think it was a combination of things. Number one, I think they were still bitter. They have been bitter just about me playing the 2 sports for a long time. Number 2, it was the salary. And number 3, they figured that it was the best business deal that they could make at the time.
Well, it's good to hear that you feel Bo knows he'll be back. We hope you will. Bo, best to you. Thank you. One of the very nice moments from the Oscars last night is Sophia Loren received her Lifetime Achievement Award, and she was very moved last night.
Well, we interviewed her earlier on a pre-Oscar show, and we said that she got the award for her lifetime of films, but she really should receive it for her lifetime because it's as interesting and as rewarding as the film she's made.
In her speech, she thanked her husband, who was there, and then her two sons, who were there, 22 and 18 years old, and my daughter, as she was watching, went, "Oh, wow."
Yeah.
They're as handsome
And
as
a few men said, "Oh, wow," when Sophia walked out.
Absolutely. You always say that. She's still a beautiful woman. We're going to be having a lot on the Oscars this morning, including many more reports on that. Joel talked to Kevin Costner, who was the man who really swept the awards last night. Dances with Wolves won 7. Kevin Costner won for Best Director. Dances with Wolves won for Best Picture, and Joel will be talking to him in our second hour. Also on our agenda this morning in this half hour, a very serious subject, the life and death issue of gun control. At the center of today's controversy is a congressional bill that would establish a 7-day waiting period before you can buy a handgun, and we'll be discussing that.
And also I had a discussion for college students and college-bound students and their parents, and that is how to cope with the higher cost, and it really is high, of higher education. But right now, Mike Snyder has the news, and good morning to you again, Mike.
Thank you, Barbara. Good morning, everyone. We begin with Iraq, where Saddam Hussein hasn't wiped out the rebels trying to overthrow him, but he apparently has the rebellion under control in southern Iraq. U.S. officials say Saddam's troops have wiped out most of the resistance in the south, but there are conflicting reports still from the north, where Kurdish rebels apparently have control of the city of Kirkuk. Even so, Iraqi forces are expected to regain control in the north after they finish cleaning up in the south. But their victory comes at a terrible price. Thousands of refugees are jamming the roads of southern Iraq, and they are reporting horrifying atrocities. They say the Iraqi army is crushing this rebellion there by shooting down families in the streets and randomly executing teenage boys. Many refugees are flooding into the U.S. military checkpoints. They're begging for food, for water, and for medical care. Some congressional budget analysts now believe that the U.S. could actually make a profit on the Gulf War. Now, if all the allies continue to make their payments as promised, the U.S. will collect more than $54 billion in compensation. Now, the war was so short and the U.S. lost so little equipment, analysts believe the true cost of the war will be more like $40 billion, a net profit perhaps of $14 billion. Even so, Japan stands at this point to pay less than originally expected for its share of the war cost. Japan insists it will pay its share in yen, but the yen is now worth less than it was compared to the dollar. So that makes Japan's payment closer to $8.6 instead of the $9.9 billion that it had promised back in January. President Bush has now given the Chrysler chairman Lee Iacocca and the heads of Ford and General Motors a rather sympathetic ear, but no promise to help them fight off Japanese auto competition. The White House says the president is opposed at this point to government restrictions on free trade. Well, things may be tough in the auto industry, but things are up elsewhere in the U.S. economy. Ken Pruitt has this morning's economic report.
Good morning. The housing industry is looking better. Sales of existing single-family homes rose nearly 8% last month, the first increase since last October. Home buyers benefited from lower prices and lower interest rates. Economist Erwin Kellner says it's a great time to buy a house, but don't wait too long.
My guess is that the typical first-time buyer, or any buyer for that matter, has a great window, but the window will stay open for maybe 3 to 5 months.
Kellner expects the economy to start recovering by the middle of the year. An official of the Airline Pilots Association says the unions at Trans World Airlines have given conditional approval to concessions in exchange for partial ownership of TWA. Wall Street Journal reports the unions would get 33% of TWA, investor Kirk Kerkorian would get 50%, and TWA's creditors would get the rest. But the union official would not confirm those figures. The stock market recovered a bit. The Dow Jones Industrial Average moved up nearly 7 points. It's at 2865 this morning. And later today, IBM is expected to unveil a new laptop computer, re-entering a market it abandoned a couple of years ago when its old laptop was criticized for being too big and lacking a lot of features. And that's the economy this morning.
Finally been talking about the Oscars this morning. Last night's big Academy Awards. Dances with Wolves, of course, was the big winner. Best Picture, the director of that film, Kevin Costner, winning an Oscar as well. The Best Actress went to Kathy Bates for Misery. The Best Actor, Jeremy Irons, for Reversal of Fortune. And actually, when it comes to that title, Reversal of Fortune, you could also use that to describe what happened to the Oscar that William Saroyan won for Best Screenplay back in 1943. That Oscar is not in some big shelf in some big house. It is now sitting in a pawn shop in San Francisco. A man bought it in last year, we're told. He hocked it for $250. The owner of the pawn shop says he's been offered $20,000 for this Oscar, but so far he has turned down all those offers. The price of fame. That is the news till now. Let's check in with Spencer, see how the day's weather is shaping up. Spence?
All right, Mike, today's winner is Mother Nature for best special effects on a weather map. Let's take a look at what's going on here. We've got, well, three very distinct storms here out west. You see one just blossoming here over northern Idaho and western Montana. Big snowstorm moving up into that area. This is one that was down in this region yesterday. You see another storm sliding down the coast here. See, that's hitting California later today. That'll be the big rain producer today. And here's another storm coming inland through the southern California area into the southern Rockies. That's going to be a big snow producer today for southern Nevada, southern Utah, northern Arizona, the interior mountains of California and Nevada. This storm system along the coast of California is going to produce not only heavy thunderstorms and rainfall, but possibly tornadoes as well. It's going to be a very vigorous system. Down through the nation's midsection later today, storms will develop. They'll be rather powerful too, heavy rainfall. But it'll be warm here and summer-like in the Mississippi Valley, the southern plains, the southeast, highs generally in the 80s, some 90s in southern Texas. Out west over the Rockies, though, still quite winter-like, highs generally in the 30s and 40s. That's a look at the national weather picture. Here's a look at the weather where you are.
Good morning, everyone. I'm meteorologist Matt Safino. The rain is over, at least for a few days. We'll have sunny skies today, temperatures around 50. For tonight, clear and very cold, dropping down below freezing. We'll have more sunny, warm weather for the rest of the week.
This weather report has been brought to you by Vacuum Folgers. It's now 37 past the hour, and Good Morning America continues in just a moment.
The leading gourmet coffee gets its flavor from just one kind of coffee bean. So, this is them. Folgers Gourmet Supreme starts with that same Colombian bean.